Hey everyone, Yanis here. I've been in crypto since 2016, but actively since 2017. I started looking into NFTs from the gaming side in 2018 because that's how NFTs clicked in my mind and made sense. As a gamer, I did want to own in-game assets and be able to see the provenance, how scarce an item is, and obviously be able to trade it, but also have utility. Uh, so I was very fascinated with God Unchained and how you could own in-game assets and they were scarce, and that actually um, was the first time I actually got into the rabbit hole of why NFTs are important, and that's how the excitement began. Uh, but I didn't get into art and NFTs and collectibles that much until mid to late 2020, DeFi summer, or during DeFi summer. That's when I found out about Rarible because I'd invested some money in the token that actually performed really well, which was good. But then I decided to reinvest some of the money in the platform. I started collecting memes and just things that looked nice to me, not that much in terms of like historic importance, or because I was never into art. I always loved art, but never got educated on it and never collected much, except for a few physicals, some prints. My first prints that I got were from Trevor Jones in 2019 and Pascal Boyard, just because they were doing crypto-related art, crypto art if you want. Um, and slowly, I felt the need of displaying what I was collecting in a more digital native manner, and that's when I began um, collecting more NFTs and that have to do with the metaverse. That's how Museum of NFT Art was born in Crypto Voxels in order to display art that collected and help promote artists, upcoming artists in the space. That snowballed into um, opening Narcissus Gallery in Decentraland with Akira, another big collector, an OG collector as well. And slowly, I started going deeper into the rabbit hole. Really got interested with generative art, on-chain generative art. Uh, I started minting stuff like squiggles and ringers, and slowly, my focus started going towards that. But I've been collecting now for actively for 3 years. It's been a crazy ride. Uh, More than 4,000 NFTs later and counting. But yeah, that's a brief introduction from my side.
Hello. My name is Anton, and nice to meet you. Nice to see you here. Uh, I wanted to ask about Mona, Museum of NFT Art. Could you share a bit about why it was created, and what's the concept of creating an NFT museum, and what kind of artworks can be there in this museum? Thanks.
I mean, that's a good question. I mean, the reality was in the beginning I wanted to have exposure in metaverse related NFTs because I really believe in digital goods. Again, all this coming from my gaming background, and realizing where like the world is headed and where technology is headed, it made sense at the time um, to invest in some plots in various metaverse projects. It was and it's still very early. Many of the projects we know today might not exist in 5, 10, 20 years, but it was a way to experiment, play with these different platforms, understand what's missing, what's not missing. And because I had exposure in these platforms, in these metaverses, um, as I started collecting more and more NFT art, I guess NFT art, uh, I had this need to display the art I was collecting in a more digital native way. So I thought it was the appropriate way to, honor this medium was to display them in the metaverse, and that's why I hired metaverse architects to build this gallery in crypto voxels. Right now, the gallery has roughly 20 to 30 pieces being displayed. Most are some of the first pieces I collected maybe in the first 6 months that I collected NFT art, crypto art, whatever anyone wants to call it. Um, and slowly that started growing into something bigger. We wanted to do something similar to what vertical crypto art is doing with the cohorts. We wanted to basically run an incubator for artists who were not familiar with crypto, with blockchain, with NFTs. We want to help them, set up wallets, um, mint on their own contracts and all that stuff. But I didn't have enough time with work and my personal life to pursue that. And I'm really happy that Mikol and the whole vertical crypto art team started this initiative because I couldn't think of a better person to be doing something like this. But that was the gist of it. Plus that the Museum of NFT Art displays pieces from my personal collection. So it's not that the museum is collecting art by as a separate entity. Everything that belongs to me is displayed in the museum. So anything in my collection is in the collection of Mona. Yes. Um, I hope I answered your question.
Yeah, thank you. So, so another question for me
Mhm.
about your collection. I would like to know how do you choose an artwork? How do you understand that this is the work that you like? Is there any criteria or yeah? Please share the process.
For sure, for sure. I think that's a question I get every time when I'm doing these MAAs in vertical crypto art. I think it is a very important question to ask, although you will get a very different answer from every collector uh, you ask. For me, first of all, I think number one importance for me usually, uh, with some exceptions, of course, but usually I'm looking for pieces that speak to me, that mean something to me, that make me feel something. That's like a very big criterion for me. Second of all, obviously, I'll look into the artist, who the artist is, what they've been doing, what they've done already, what work they've put up as NFTs. I will look into the pricing because many times artists price pieces very differently. If they're animated, if they're one of ones, if they're editions, if they're dynamic and all that stuff. So it can get a bit tricky. So I try to understand for me if their price is reasonable. Obviously, whatever price an artist sets, in my opinion, that's the correct price because that's what they value their art at. It's just a personal opinion of if I have the budget and if I can justify buying a piece at that price. Um, Also, to an extent, there's historical importance with some pieces or some artists that might affect my judgment in what I buy. I'm really interested in on-chain work, dynamic works. basically, if artists are doing innovative things with blockchain technology, that's what I'm more eager to collect, because it's nice painting on a canvas, taking a picture, and minting that as an NFT. I've collected a lot of these works, and I have some of them as a physical too. But I think now that artists have blockchain as a tool in their disposal, they have to use it in creative ways, because you're not bound by physics and other stuff in real life when you're doing works on the blockchain. So I really like pieces that are doing something new, something interesting. Like, for example, Crash Blossoms Burner is a project that I really like. But yeah, there's a lot of things that go into my decision into buying a piece, but it's usually um, if the art style speaks to me, if the piece speaks to me, evokes an emotion, yeah, I think that sums it up pretty well.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you also for sharing your for sharing the project that you like. So yeah, thanks.
It's my pleasure. Um, I think there's some questions in the chat as well. So let me jump into that real quick. So Emily asks, great, Harry. What trends are you seeing that you're excited about now? To be honest, if we're talking generally about NFTs, I think there's a trend with NFTs and crypto. There's a trend with gaming right now, but that is not art related, I guess. That's what I see from a VC side and from all the projects popping up. I mean, I'm in gaming myself, um, with a project I co-founded called Couch Heroes. But in the art side, I mean, the trend that has stuck for some time, which I didn't expect it to stick around much, was open editions. A lot of artists are minting open editions still, and I personally, I, I am a fan. I don't think open editions are a bad thing. Open editions actually give collectors the opportunity to collect pieces, or a piece from an artist that many times they might not have, a good opportunity, or their pieces are selling for a lot, and you might not have the liquidity or the budget to acquire one of one or a low edition. But usually, open editions allow collectors to have exposure from an investment side, I guess, but also to be able to afford, and own a piece of art from an artist that they really like. Today I think I collected like 7 or 8 open editions on Tezos, um, for example. So I think the open edition meta, I guess if you want to call it that, is still very much alive. Manifold has played a very big role in this, and I'm really happy to see how to see artists using Manifold and minting on their own smart contracts and really owning their work, and not being attached and need a third party in between, like a marketplace. That's another trend that we saw with Manifold, rolling out new features that a lot of artists are starting to mint on their own smart contracts and their own collections. And we've even seen a lot of integrations, like with Super Rare and Foundation, where artists can use their own smart contracts, which I think that's a very big deal. And I wish we see more of this in the future. Um, but I think I'm not sure if I've seen clearly any other trends right now in the market. Obviously, the art market, the NFT market is not in the best place right now. Um, but I think collectors or traders or whatever, uh, are still intrigued by interesting concepts, interesting drops. And I've seen a lot of artists in the past few months rise to stardom, if you want, and gain traction even in a bear market. So I think that's a very positive sign for artists in general. Um, Another question was, what aspects of the NFT market do you like, and which one would you like to be paying? I mean, I really like the social part, the accessibility part of the NFT market compared to the traditional art market. So what I mean by that is um, a lot of I have a lot of direct access to artists that I've collected, but even to artists that I've never collected, and we have very interesting conversations. We talk about NFTs art, but even to the extent of talking about our personal lives, which is something I love about the NFT art market. If that counts as a response, um, it's really great to be able to be in contact with all these artists that I really appreciate and love. That's something that I really like about the market, and I hope it doesn't change. Um, I'm hoping that more collectors um, will be able to collect art because they love the art and they're not just buying it to flip it in 1 hour, or 1 minute, or a few days. So I would want to see the collectors of the space to have a bit more of a long-term um, view, I guess, of what they're doing, of what they're buying, because there has been this ideology of I'm gonna buy this today for $100 and I'm gonna sell it the next moment for $1,000 or $10,000. That everyone is expecting a quick flip, and I think the market is dominated by flippers and opportunists, which does make sense. But I would love to see that change, and for people to become long-term holders and believers of an artist, of the space. And not just try to flip everything in a very short time frame. And I think that's going to happen. NFTs already have converted people to being like art collectors. Like I can tell you from personal experience, I didn't collect much art before NFTs. I didn't care about researching about art before NFTs, and that completely changed. Like art has become one of the biggest like focuses and enjoyment of my life, and I think that has happened to many people, and it will continue to happen because NFTs make access to art way easier. At least that's how I see it. Um, Something else on this. I mean, other stuff that I like in terms of the NFT market is that it is intangible. I've collected a lot of physical art in the last 3 years, and I have no room on my walls. I have so many stored, and it's a shame. So that's why I like NFTs. It's way easier for people to appreciate them, browse them. I mean, I'm going to look through my collection, maybe not daily anymore, but almost daily, and I enjoy it every day. All the pieces I've collected, which is not something I can do with the physical pieces I collected, which are in a storage facility here in Greece. So yeah, that's another great thing about NFTs, I suppose. Um, I mean, yeah, just seeing Emily's comment. Gaming could be art too. It's definitely art. And one of the biggest misconceptions I had myself before starting a gaming company is that it was going to be very dev heavy, but in reality, it's very art heavy. At this point in time, I think we have around 30 to 40 people working for Couch Heroes, and I think more than 50% are artists. So gaming is very art heavy, and I think gaming is art as well. If you think that cinema, film, TV is art, then video games are art. They are telling a story. They are entertainment. They are an experience. So definitely, in my eyes at least, gaming is art as well, in its own unique way, of course. But yeah. Um, Next question from Numenal. I would love to hear more about the gaming project you're finding interesting. I haven't really explored the gaming aspects of NFTs at all, but I love gaming, and maybe to make it all connect, do you see ways the gaming project could be connected to the art side of NFTs? Right. To be honest, I'm not very invested in the NFT gaming space for now because the trend, the last bull cycle was around play to earn, and I don't think that's a good way to do things. Play to earn sounds great on paper, but it's insanely hard to get right in reality. It's not easy to do the economics of a play to earn game for 50 people that will work for 50 people, and then when you scale to 1 million people, it's also going to work for 1 million people. I think we all saw the rise and fall of Axie Infinity, where they raised a ton of money. They had a lot of traction, especially from third world countries, and there was all this hype about P2E. Everyone was making a P2E game, and then everything went down in terms of values and pricing and interest in these games. So I think P2E is definitely not the future of gaming, but something similar to that, something more sustainable, definitely is. So I'm not very invested or on top of like on-chain gaming right now. There are some interesting experiments or projects in the works. For example, I like what Parallel is doing. I like what Gods Unchained is doing. There's some really nice on-chain games like Dark Forest and some others. So there's things going on, but I think we're going to see really good gaming projects come out in the next 3 years, because this is another thing with gaming. It really takes a long time to actually produce games. Another big misconception that most people don't understand about gaming: it really takes a long time to create a game, and a good one at least. Um, so to go to the second part of your question, um, I think gaming does again connected with the art side. For example, I mean, I don't want to share much because a lot of the stuff is still in stealth mode. But with Couch Heroes, we want artists and art to be a big part of our game. Um, from creating an asset in their own style that's going to be immortalized in our game forever, to actually doing drops of wearables that artists have created. So it's not 100% art per se, but having a building or an art piece displayed in our game, or having a wearable or a pet or an environmental asset by an artist, I think that is connecting artists with video games, and I would really want to see more of that. And it's really an easy quote unquote thing to have artists make wearables in their own style, in their own characteristic style. So that's what we're doing, for now at least. I don't know if anyone has a question that they want to say on voice chat. If not, I'll continue with the other questions on chat. Awesome. So Ivan asks, uh, could you talk a little bit more about Mona and what are your goals for this project? Um, Sadly, due to obviously not having infinite time in my hands and already sleeping like 5-6 hours per day, and being involved in two active projects and two projects that are being set up right now, I don't have a lot of time for Mona. It is something that I wish I could delegate to a few other people to run in my stead, but I haven't had the time to look for people I would trust to run something like this. It is something I do want to get back into. Um, Something that we did back in 2020, late 2020, I think. It was a collaboration with Mona and Loopify. I'm not sure if everyone here is familiar with Loopify. It's a very big um, collector and builder in the space. We wanted to find a way to be able to promote upcoming artists and artists that really deserve more attention. So we thought of this concept that we called the loot box, which was essentially a box. You would buy this box and you would get two artworks editions from five artists. So you'd buy a box and you get two editions randomly from five potential artists. Um, didn't do great at the time. We only sold like 15 boxes, but a lot of projects started uh, replicating what we did after some time with a lot of success. I think we were just a bit too early, and there were not a lot of us at the time really passionate and interested in art and not other types of NFTs. But stuff like that, I really wanna have a second go at it. Maybe new ideas as well. We're also I've been trying to host IRL events in Greece under Mona for some time now. It hasn't been the easiest thing uh, to work with Greek entities, either if they're government or privately owned. Now I've met a lot of people from the NFT space, especially like Greek people in the NFT and the crypto space. So I mean, I'll start hopefully working on IRL events more that are going to be accompanied by drops, auctions, exhibitions, stuff like that. So hopefully Mona can take have more life, I guess, through those initiatives. But hopefully in the future we can do more with that because it's really a project I like. It's just I really don't have the um, time for it. Um, so I'll go and ask, do you have large displays at home for a collection? And do you have any thoughts on how displaying work might evolve in the future? Sure. I don't have displays at home. I haven't been pleased with most of displays I've seen abroad, or to be honest, a lot of the pieces I've collected until today, which is a big debate recently on Twitter, are they translate better on paper. Like one example is Fidenzas. I think Fidenzas look 100 times better on paper than on a screen, and that is true for a lot of works right now out there. And that's why I remember someone talking about it. Maybe it was DC Investor. I'm not sure. Someone on Twitter was saying that they wanted to see more artwork that quote unquote can't be translated on paper, and the digital medium is where they should be displayed and where they belong. And I don't disagree with that. It's just the physical work has still has this allure and this I don't know how to explain it, but there's something about physical works, again, and many of them translate better on paper. So I've collected most of the pieces I have are not on the screen or something, except for a few infinite objects. um, if there was a decently priced and good quality screen display, I would probably buy one. But then there's the second, I guess the second question you're asking. Right now, I think that there's an issue because most screens come in a specific, obviously, shape, and not all art pieces can fit in that shape that the screen is in. That's a big issue I've been having with IRL events. A lot of viral events will get the same screen, like 10 Samsung screens of the same dimensions, and they will put all their works that they're exhibiting in those screens. And you'll have black borders on the side, and some of the pieces are not fitting well, and they have to be resized. And that's not a great look. I think each piece is meant to be displayed in a specific in specific dimensions, and that's very hard to achieve, obviously, because everyone does different aspects, different ratios, so you can't have one screen to fit all. But maybe in the future we see a modular screen, maybe a lot of square parts that you can assemble, like Legos, for example, that you can, make the perfect frame for each piece. Um, so that's where I'm hoping it's gonna go. I wouldn't mind having a digital screen. It's not on my priorities. I like seeing works printed, especially works that are printed that are better looking when they're printed. But from time to time, I might cast some of my pieces that I've collected uh, on my TV when I have like family or friends over. Uh, but yeah, that's that's my view on screens and displays, I guess. Right. Yeah, those screens do exist. They're usually LED screens, if I'm not mistaken. They're used for events, and usually, these squares are quite large. They're, I mean, roughly like half a meter long, maybe even a meter long. And the issue with those screens is that when you go really up close to them, they really look bad. So they're meant for you to look at them from a distance. So they're not ideal for your home, at least for now.
Uh, uh, I remember a couple of months ago there was a big announcement from Apple about 3D glasses, or I don't remember how they're called, but it's for me it was really kind of exciting, and but so it feels like a big step in AR and VR direction. Do you think it will somehow uh, benefit for NFT and crypto art and NFT space and exhibitions, and maybe we'll get more people to it, or it won't change anything? What do you think of this technology?
Right. That's a pretty good question, and it's something that has been about it. I know that a lot of builders are very excited about it. AR is definitely the first thing that's going to be, readily available, and compared to VR at least. So the first step is definitely AR, augmented reality. I'm not super happy with what Apple is doing, because you have the opportunity to do things in AR, more 3D things, and from their presentation, it seems that they're sticking with mostly 2D stuff, like having more screens in front of you, while they can do so much more. AR technology is really going to revolutionize a lot of things, especially like experiences. Sadly, in my opinion, ads as well. But it's definitely big for art. It's even bigger for other stuff, though, like gaming. For example, I'm not sure if everyone here is familiar with like Pokemon Go, but that is like a perfect fit for AR. So gaming is gonna be huge. I think broadcasting, for example, video games and esports, and being able to see those games through Apple glasses, and being able to see like a whole map of a video game on your table, and you're going to be able to move around and see every aspect of a map. That's really intriguing to me. Also, digital fashion. Digital fashion is gonna immensely grow from these leaps in like technology and availability, because when we have cheap, good quality AR goggles that you can wear in your everyday, like you can wear every day, like sunglasses that have AR technology embedded, that's when stuff like digital fashion is going to explode. When people will want to actually own digital fashion, are going to go crazy over digital fashion, because that's when you're going to be able to apply filters on people, and people are going to wear wacky and crazy outfits outside. I'm very very excited about digital fashion, because digital fashion is part of gaming as well, but it's part of art as well. We've already seen a lot of collaboration between artists, especially generative artists, with digital fashion projects like Drop. Drop did the collaboration with Nicolas Sassoon, from what I remember. That was very interesting. But we're gonna see way more of those, and I love that artists are involved in fashion as well. It's something that interests me. I've way more interest to buy a clothing item that an artist has collaborated, or it's released by them. I mean, most of the stuff I wear now is NFT swag or art swag anyway. But yeah, AR is going to be a big thing, even for experiencing digital art and displaying digital. And again, they're very expensive. So the technology is still not there. It has some time ahead of it until it's mass available, cheap, and the technology is there. So AR is definitely something to look into and be ready to play with as an artist. That's my opinion. Um, Emily, I mean, I don't know if you have another question on that. If Sorry about that. If you don't, the other question by Emily is: could you talk a bit more about pricing, especially in a market like this one? Do you think artists should adjust the price of their work to sell or to maintain value? That is another big conversation I've had lately with artists. Um, I actually spoke. I actually had a small meetup here in Greece that I organized. Very small, like 15 people, with collectors, artists, um, builders, etc. And one of the question I asked the artists was, "What are you guys doing right now in terms of pricing? Are you changing your prices due to the bear market? Are you pricing in ETH? Are you pricing in fiat?" Because these questions are questions that uh, I've been asking on Twitter, and I've been asking artists since 2020. I remember raising the question at the time, like during late 2020, that Ethereum is at 1K, and now artists are pricing, for example, their pieces at 1 ETH. But what happens when ETH is at 4K or at 10K? Are you going to continue pricing your works at 1 ETH, or are you going to have to adapt to and play around with the USD value? So the thing is, it really depends on the artist. Some artists always price in USD. Some artists always price in ETH. Um, it's very up to the artist. I just think the artist has to be consistent about it. Um, and I don't think artists should lower their floors per se. I think, again, if you think that you're valuing your art correctly and that's how much it's worth to you, you shouldn't change it because you're not selling. At some point, I'm pretty positive you will be selling even at that price point. It's just a matter of if you're selling and and you want to raise the prices, be organic about it. Don't be affected by one collector that is ready to overpay, and who's a whale and might not really care about his money or her money. Um, so don't get affected by outside factors. Try and be as organic and as reasonable as possible. I wouldn't say, you know, drop your prices a lot in order to get buyers. I know artists who have had stuff that has been minted for months, maybe for years, even on very big platforms like Super Rare, and they're not doing anything about it because they know that they've been through other cycles. They know that they don't want to diminish their work. So what you can do is release new work at more affordable prices, maybe editions, open editions, maybe through collaborations with other artists or projects. Um, and yeah, it's definitely important to stay consistent with your past sales, uh, because obviously a lot of people might be collecting your work because they love your work. But if they bought a piece that you sold for 5 ETH, and then you start selling one of ones that are also still like the ones they bought for 1 ETH, and there's a lot of them, they might start to get annoyed, and that does make sense. So you have to, to be careful of all these different aspects, in my opinion. Also, now that I think of it, it's not a bad thing for artists to play around with, with other blockchains and other platforms. For example, if things might not, if you might not have a lot of traction on Ethereum, for example, it might be interesting to test out Tezos, which is, cheaper, obviously. In general, like one out of one on Tezos is most of the times, if not always, cheaper than on ETH. So, and Tezos, for example, still has, collectors that are interested in art, and because obviously the art pieces are more accessible, there's a bigger number of them eager to collect art there. So that's also, I think, good advice. Don't be afraid to play around with other blockchains. I think just be careful with which ones you're going with, because you never know if they're going to exist in 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. Be selective, but don't be afraid to play with other blockchains. So Ivan asks, I've never made an OE. Many of my old collectors said that they didn't like open editions. Some of them were kind of upset. I might do my first pretty soon. How do you feel about them? That's your opinion. Again, I think OEs are great. Um, it's just a matter of, if you're constantly putting out OEs, you're you're making the market confused about your pricing, because one of them might sell for, the starting price might be, for example, zero point 0.5 ETH, and it might sell 100 pieces, but then you might sell one for 0.05 ETH, and that only sells 10 pieces. That can affect your pricing in general a bit. So I think just it's a matter of not overdoing it. With crypto, with NFTs, we have that nice ability to do burns, which, lower supplies. It's always good for the artist and the collector. You get, more traction and possibility, more sales because of these burn events. But I like always, again, they give me the ability to collect from artists that I love, that might be, you know, too expensive for me to acquire one on one or a low edition. So it's a great way for me to own a work from an artist that I really love, have exposure to their work. Like, for example, a good example is Xcopy. 99% of the NFT space can't own a 101, and let's say the majority of the space can't even own a very low edition. So stuff like his open editions have been a perfect way for people that love his work to own his work. Um, so yeah, I'm a fan of open editions. It's just I'm not a fan of artists who overdo it. That's like the distinction in my mind.
Could you share anything, any your thoughts about uh, Bitcoin, NFTs, ordinals? Do you personally collect anything on Bitcoin? Oh yeah, and Pavel also asked it. Yeah.
Um, okay, so to be honest, I'm not a huge fan of ordinals. Again, this was a topic that we discussed recently with a few other collectors and developers and stuff. I'm not a huge fan because I am a fan of Bitcoin NFTs, especially historic Bitcoin NFTs. I have collected a lot of rare peppers, for example, because I love peppers and because of their historic importance. Um, Plus, I really love Bitcoin. That's the reason I got into crypto. Um, Bitcoin is not just a coin or blockchain. It's an ideology. It's a way of thought. It's a lot of things. So, having assets on that blockchain, which are even older than most of the NFTs are around us today, like on ETH and stuff. I think I think as a collector, at least, I'm very interested in acquiring and owning these assets. Ordinals never hit a nerve with me. Like they never got me really excited because I saw how much some certain individuals were pushing for that narrative. I don't think the concept, like the technology, how they work, is bad. I don't think it's consumer friendly or noob friendly. I don't think the infrastructure is 100% there yet. Um, they even tried replicating the same thing on Ethereum with inscriptions or something like that. Um, I prefer normal NFTs, not inscriptions. Inscriptions to me are a bit more of like a souvenir, something that has some personal meaning to me. Not that much in terms of art though. Like for example, okay, I have a punk. I would love to own that punk as an inscription on the Bitcoin blockchain, but that's the extent for me. Like, it doesn't really excite me. Maybe in the future it will. For now, it hasn't. I don't own almost anything on Bitcoin ordinals. But yeah, I think it's more collectible side than actual art. There's a lot of art there, but I think it's more suited for collectibles and such.
Thank you.
No problem.
And so, speaking of blockchains, and right now is L2 on Ethereum is really rising,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of people like get into it. I actually not so long ago I just kind of started to understand how it works.
Mm-hmm.
So, and right now is uh, Prohibition Art is launching on
Mm-hmm.
Arbitrum, and Zora also launched the feature. So, but for me, it's still kind of confusing because I don't understand how where is actually artwork is going to be.
Mm-hmm.
And so, what do you think of this L2? And do you prefer more work on Ethereum or on layer 2? So, what are your thoughts?
That's a great question. I'm gonna be brutally honest. I don't think art should exist much on L2s. I want my art on Ethereum. If I wanted my art on another thing, I would collect on other blockchains like I do. Like for example, if I want cheaper gas fees and cheaper art pieces and all that stuff, I'm gonna go to Tezos. I'm gonna go to Solana, which I don't, by the way. I'm just saying. I'm gonna go to other L1s that for now are cheaper. If if I want art, I'm not going to do value that art in my mind by having it on top of Ethereum and not on Ethereum itself. Um, right. I know Jordan. I know what they're doing with Prohibition. I know what they're doing, in collaboration with our blocks engine and all that stuff. It's cool, but I personally don't have much interest in collecting art on L2s. I think L2s are perfect for video games, for games, for mass goods, right? Because if I want to buy something that costs a few cents or a few dollars, and gas costs on Ethereum are more than that, what's the point of collecting it if I'm paying $1 for that NFT and then I have to pay $7 for gas? So L2s really make sense for NFTs, but for gaming and for volume NFTs. So an NFT that's 50,000 editions, it's a wearable for Decentraland, and it costs a few cents or a few dollars. Yes, 100% on L2s. You don't want to clog up the Ethereum network, and it's already clogged up, and it just doesn't make financial sense for those assets to be on Ethereum on an L1. So NFTs, like ticketing, wearables, digital fashion, music, video game assets, and all that stuff, 100% makes sense on L2s. Art, in my mind, not that much. That does not mean that I'm saying don't do it. Obviously, do it and experiment with it. Why not? Like, there's always crowds in these different L1s and L2s, and they might not collect on other blockchains or layers. So I'm not saying don't do it. I'm just saying personally, I don't think, I don't think it's a perfect place for art. And I'm not trying to throw shade to Prohibition or any other project on L2s. Just this is my personal opinion.
Yeah, thank you for your honest answer. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
No problem. Powell also said that there's a lot of art on BTC. Yeah, of course there is. I know Crash Blossom did a drop there as well. Um, But yeah, there's definitely more collectibles, PFPs, clones from ETH on there. I think there's like over 1 billion inscriptions already. So I can imagine that most of it is like random trash. Like, no offense, not talking about the art stuff. But yeah, there's definitely art as well on it. Charles AI did a drop there as well. Yeah, I've seen some art. I've seen some art there. Just not my cup of tea personally. Um, yeah, at least for now. At least for now. Ivan has just posted a question. You mentioned that you like interactive NFTs. Where do you collect them? In usual platforms like OSSR or Async? Transient Labs is creating some cool tools too that I'm looking forward to play with. Um, I think in general, dynamic, evolving NFTs, and all those NFTs under that rough umbrella are very underappreciated. Um, they're very underappreciated. Okay, sorry. They're very underappreciated. Async art is by far one of my favorite platforms in the NFT space, and I think it's one of the biggest sleepers. They're doing something very unique, from a long time ago as well, not something recent. And they're being slept upon a lot. That's where I collect a lot of dynamic art. Obviously, where I have collected a lot of dynamic art, I love the platform. Really, really hope it gets the recognition it deserves. Um, but yeah, it's not going to be a SAR or OS. It's probably going to be like a custom smart contract or something like that. Again, drops of years were like Gazers, but by Matt Kane. Um, and also burners were very cool, but there's also, interactive dynamic NFTs that are very, very, very interesting. Um, yeah, I'm not familiar with the Transient Labs tools that are coming out. We'll definitely check that out. But yeah, hopefully we see more, dynamic NFTs. I don't remember the name of the artist. I keep forgetting his name, but he's done stuff on ETH and BTC, where the artwork changes based on the Ethereum or the BTC price. And it's like this Pepe or this like animal that grows or shrinks based on the Bitcoin or Ethereum price action. Which is super cool. Super cool. Awesome. Thank you for having me.